Hi there, David Taylor or Mr. Pelargonium back with another video for the Pelargonium and Geranium Society. Today it's all about our test plant. You remember our test plant that we've been looking at over about the last 3 years, I think we've developed it. And it's time to have a look at it again. It did survive the transition of the move. So let's see how it went. Let's get going. Well, hello there. It's great to see you again on another cold and, well, it's a little bit brighter today. I mean, I do have to say that the weather, really since the turn of the year, has been really bad, certainly in the southern half of the UK, which is where I'm based. It's been very dull, it's been very cold. I mean, we've not had snow or anything like that. We had a little bit in January, but it's just been so dull and just so freezing cold. I've got an awful lot of things that I want to do to my plants, but it really has just been too dull and cold to do. On the very odd occasion that we've had a sunny day, the temperature does rise up a bit in here, but we've had so few of them that I've just not been able to really do hardly anything. But thankfully, the weather is due to change tomorrow. I'm filming this today on Tuesday, the 18th of February. But the weather at long last is meant to be turning milder from tomorrow, the 19th. So I'm hopeful of getting a few things just sort of repotted to get them going. And one of those is the test plant. I should have pulled it out really by now, shouldn't I? But I did a video last week on giving it a little bit of a shape and cut back because it was 18 weeks last week to the show. Well, as I say, it's the 18th today. Last Saturday, the 15th, it was 18 weeks to the show. So anything double or the Regals all need to really be stopped by now, in order to, time them to flower well by the date of the show, which this year is the 21st of June. I did the test plant last week, so just a tad over a couple of days over 18 weeks. But today it got, well, during the transition, it got a bit buffeted, because it was outside, it had to withstand some rather harsh conditions during the autumn. It got a little bit bashed, so today I'm going to repot it. Right, and here she is. So what we basically got during the autumn, it obviously just got a bit buffeted over. It's probably to a certain extent the way it's grown as well. And it's just got a little bit lopsided, and I want to repot it. I think it wouldn't do it any harm anyway. I mean, I did repot this on the 18th of July last year. That was obviously before we moved. And realistically, though, it needs to be sat in a pot a bit like that, and it could probably do with dropping down somewhat. So we'll do that today. Now, last week I did a video to show the sort of what it looked like initially, and showing the little cutting back that I did here. It was probably a little bit more than a tip stop. I just wanted to get it sort of shaped up well, because it obviously not had any attention during the autumn when I was having to sort out the greenhouse, build the greenhouse and all that kind of thing. It is quite dry, the leaves are fairly limp, it is very dry, so this is how I like to do the plants. Right, so what I'll do now, I'll just run the initial video that I did last week when I just give this a trim, so I'll do that now. Okay, so here we are then. This is our test plant. This is the sort of cutback stage. I'm filming this the week before the main video that you'll be seeing there. It's Thursday the 13th of February. Now, the main problem that we've got with this plant is that it's become unbalanced. We can see here it sort of slid to one side. I mean, this may well have been something to do with the fact that I had it outside during the autumn. It got buffeted by wind and pushed about and all this kind of thing. And so it's going to require a repotting. I wouldn't normally do this to a plant at this time, but I think this one will just benefit from it. It has actually survived quite well, to be fair. So I'm actually going to give this a bit of a clip down just to reshape it. It's not too bad, but as I've said, it basically, hopefully you'll be able to see that, it's all fallen over to one side. So I'm just going to slightly reshape it. It's got marginally oblong. And, you know, we can go from there, and hopefully repotting it will give it a little bit of new juice in the tank with regard to its roots. So we'll have to see then how it goes for the show in June. So I'm just going to reshape this now. I will clean my knife. It is dry today, so once I've done this, I will open up the greenhouse a bit. I mean, it is really cold. I'm probably going to be moaning on in the sort of main video for this, how awful and cold it's been. Right, okay, so let's make a start. I'm going to nip this one out here. It is going to be I suppose you would call it a relatively hard stop. It's not just tip stopping, which I have been doing quite a bit of. I'm going to strip out a few leaves as well. I've even got some bloom coming there, look, which I really don't want. So we'll break those off. Obviously, we'll rebalance it once I've done all the tip stopping. We'll get rid of that leaf as well. So in here, I will probably start. I'm going to need to go down to there on this one. So this is just taking out that tip. I'm just trying to sort of formulate so that you can see it. Let's have a look. And so I'm taking that one out. Do the same this side. With this one, I'm actually going to go down to this inner break from this leaf here. So this plant is actually getting a little bit older now. We'll just check the date while we're talking about that. I mean, this is a August 2021 cutting. So that is, you know, it's getting to a stage where this is going to probably be its prime year, I would generally say. I'm just going round, literally going down a node from the top. See these, there we are, and there's a node breaking out of that one. There'll be another one come out of there. With this one down there, I'll take off that dirty leaf. Just nip this one out. I mean, it's not a bad shape, it's just really the fact that it's got a bit lopsided. So, you know, we're going to need to balance it off with repotting it. The other thing is, of course, we like to get a bit of light going down into the plant at this time of year when we get some. Our dreadful winter that we've had this year is making it a really slow start to the season. Now this branch here, this is taller, and I'm going to need to cut this back a bit harder. So hopefully you can see that over the top. I'm going to go right down to that branch. So you just go a bit deeper on branches that are a bit longer. So that one's gone down a little bit more. Take that yellow leaf off. Basically, I mean, you just do not want the plant expending energy on blooming at this time. You want it to grow. Let's have a look. We'll review this one again, but I'm just going to take that growing tip out. Here we are, that's that one. So this one is going to need a bit of work. This is going to need to go back fairly hard, I think. So I'm going to take that there, because there's a little side shoot. If you look at this one, there's a side shoot coming out the top, which you hopefully can see. Now coming out the top there. So by the time I've tipped that, that will help sort of give some growth to the top of that stem. So again, I'm looking at this now sort of dead on. That's the view that I'm trying to look at, where it's tipped over, because as I say, I'm going to just repot this. In front of you, what for you will be in a moment, but for me will be next week. Now I've got some young new shoots coming out the stems down here, but therefore I'm not going to touch those. They need to grow up anyway, so I'll let them grow out. But all of the main stems I think are now done, and I'm happy. I think my only question mark might be, what I'm looking at here is that I need to equate that stem to like this one, and this is much higher, so we can see a nice side shoot growing out there, and I'm going to cut right down to that side shoot. There we are, and that's perfect. Now if I look at that like that, that's exactly how I want it to be. That stem balances with that one, that stem, all these balance through. That's exactly how I want that to be. So there we are, that will be repotted more or less like that, but I won't dwell on that too much because I'll no doubt show you next week when I come to do the second part of this. So I will see you in a moment. Right, so there we are. I mean, that's had a good few days now. I mean, it has been dry, so although it's been cold, I've had the doors and a few windows open, and these have all completely sealed off now. So I'll just close in and we'll repot this plant. Right, so there we are. We've got our little test plant label. Now, this actual plant cutting now, believe it or not, is 3.5 years old. It's got the date of the cutting, which was the 20th of August 2021. So it's 3.5 years old now. It'll be 4 years, nearly 4 years old by the time we actually get to the show. Whether I use this again, I might possibly grow it on for next year as a floribunda. So let's just ease it out of its pot. It is quite dry, as I would expect. No mealy, maybe one little white bit, but we are going to have to break a bit of this compost off because it's going to go into the same size pot. I will keep this as a dwarf for this year. So we're going to need to break off quite a bit of this root. But this root ball is bone dry. So we'll just gradually rub off a lot of this sort of root ball. The root is quite good. I'm actually, in a way, surprised that this plant actually did very well in the transition because it was outside for a while. I did keep a number of them in the porch, but I don't think I did this one. So a little bit of outside treatment didn't do it too much harm. Now, I wouldn't normally do this to a show plant, I would say. I wouldn't normally do it at all because I like my root balls to pack out a pot in order to really get the blooms going. So there we are, that's going down. You can almost see where the previous pot up was done to because we've got really dense roots here. But there we are, so all I've done is breaking off. You know, don't be frightened if you want to pot up plants to break them off. But as I said, wait until we're getting some milder weather. I'm wanting to do this to a fair number of my plants, but it's just been too cold. Right, okay, so there we go. We've just given that a little bit of a soak there. I don't want to go too deep because I have taken off a fair bit of the root ball, but I realise that I want this to drop a little bit, as it needs to be just toppled over marginally. Now I'm hopeful that you can see this. I'll bring that over here so you can. I've just got to basically tip this, so I'm going to be looking at it on the side to ensure that I get this right. Slightly tip it over, there it is. That I can see that the root ball was on the angle that we were looking at just earlier. And I think that'll be okay. I've dropped it down a bit as well. So we'll just backfill with the compost, sort of typical thing. Just give it a little tap so that it drops the compost down. And it's nothing too sort of complicated. Yeah, that's doing well actually. That's exactly where I want it. Stick it down underneath the ends. Now you may notice that it probably looks a little bit tipped over, but it's because there's a bit more leaf on this side, but in terms of the stems, they're perfectly balanced. In terms of the stems, but there's just a little bit more leaf on this side. In fact, let's just break that one off actually. Just get the key as well, as I've always mentioned in the past, is getting lots of light into the base of the plant. Get a bit of a tap. We're almost done really. I didn't overly soak the root. As I say, I certainly don't want to get to a situation where, you know, the root ball is absolutely saturated. That will go out into this sort of dryish, damp compost anyway. It'll be pulled out by it. Well, that's just about spot on where I'm wanting it. You can see now how that's balanced, because we've got one sticking out the side there that balances exactly with that one. So that's smack on where I'm wanting it. So it's a Gosbrook Susanna. Strangely, it's the 18th of February today, and it was the 18th of July when it was last done. So I think, is that 7 months, is it? I think it's 7 months. 18, 2, 25. So that's 7 months. And it was last done. Stick that in there. We've got a little bit of room. Put this in the playlist of the test plant because it's had a fair bit of development now over the time. Right, so there we are. That's that test plant done that we've been following for the last, well, certainly 3 years, if not even longer. It should, you know, a repot should give it a bit of a kick. That will hopefully come good for the show, but obviously we keep an eye on it over the springtime, which, you know, is knocking on the door now. So we'll look to see how it progresses, and I'll keep you updated on its progress. But as the weather now would appear to be getting a bit milder, and certainly when we do get sunshine, the temperature in the glasshouse is warming up a bit. I will, you know, endeavour to get quite a few things done, and if there's anything of importance to show, I will do a video of it. So I hope to see you again very soon, but that's it from me for today. Goodbye for now.